Hey there, Joe Gilder from HomeStudioCorner.com here again, and I want to talk to you about something that I covered in the last video, but now we're going to talk about how it applies to compression. So if you checked out the last video, I talked about how to use auto gain on your EQ to keep your EQ output at a consistent volume even if you're doing dramatic boosts or cuts with the EQ. Now, what about compression? How does that apply to a compressor? Well, let's take a look inside of Studio One. And here's the same tracks that we were covering in the last video. And let me throw a compressor on here instead. Okay, there we go. All right, so as you remember from the last video, if you didn't check that out, go check it out. It's a pretty interesting video about EQ and automatic gain. The EQ inside Studio One has a great auto gain function feature, and it works really, really well. However, I do not like the way it works in the compressor. And the reason is it doesn't keep it at a consistent volume. So let's say, just for example's sake, we're going to heavily compress these acoustic guitars, okay? Let's do a pretty fast attack. And let's just squash them. Okay, we're really compressing them. If I bypass it, you'll hear the uncompressed signal is a lot louder than the compressed. Okay, so typically the way you fix this is by using your makeup gain. You turn the overall volume back up to match up the volume. However, they have this auto button. And one would assume by using that auto button that the volume of the compressed signal and the uncompressed signal would be the same. However, it's not the case. It seems to just do some sort of a maximum volume sort of thing. So here's the uncompressed signal. And here comes the compressed signal with automatic gain. See what I mean? It's just stupid loud. I think it just takes the EQ, the compression curve, and just brings it as loud as possible. So that is not a helpful feature at all, so I never use it. So in this instance, we talked about last week in the EQ video, or in the last video, how you can manually do your automatic gain if your DAW doesn't do it for you. So let me show you exactly how that would work. So here is our compressed guitar. Okay, so we want to bring up the overall volume to match the uncompressed signal. So the way we do that is simply with this automatic gain. So I'll hit play, and I'll just keep flipping back and forth between bypassed and engaged until they're both the same volume. Quick trick, an easy way to do this, this compressor actually has an input and an output meter, so you can quickly see if your average levels are about the same. If you watch the little white dancing lines here, that's your average level. So if I turn this down, you'll see my output level is a good bit lower than my input. So I could actually do this without even looking or listening, and could match them up visually pretty well. And if we go and listen, they're right on at the same level. So it's nice that there's the input and output meters there, so you can do this visually without having to A/B and listen and take up a lot of time doing that. However, let me talk real quickly about why this is important. It's the same reason with EQ. If you have one signal that's a lot louder than the other, you're going to automatically tend to think that that one sounds better. But you might not know if you have the right compression settings, because when you engage the compressor and turn it, the compressed signal sounds so much quieter. Or if you overdo it with the gain, it sounds much louder. So by doing this and level matching the input and the output, we can adjust our compressor to really hear just what the compressor is doing. Listen to the difference here. The average level of the guitar stays the same, so we can really hear what that compressor is doing and how much it's strangling that acoustic guitar part. If you don't use your makeup gain for this, then you end up with really lopsided volumes between the compressed and uncompressed signal, and you really can't make an educated decision as to which sounds better and if you're really dialing in the right settings. In a lot of ways, you end up just operating blind. You're doing things based on what it looks like on the screen, what you think you should do, and you're not really getting a good feel for what you're doing with that compressor. So if your compressor has some sort of an automatic gain control feature, try it out. It may work better than this one, but keep in mind, if it's making things ridiculously louder, you're not really getting much benefit from that. You should probably turn it off and manually adjust your makeup gain after that, which is, after all, how all the analog compressors work anyway in the real world. Well, that's it for me. Thanks again for watching this video. If you're into tips like this, head over to homestudiocorner.com and you can sign up for my daily newsletter. All right. See you next week.